Within any given organization, there are friendly people and unfriendly people. But such differences have no meaning. If the organization is corrupt, everyone in it is corrupt. The friendly ones are the good cops, and the unfriendly ones are the bad cops. The friendly ones give the organization the sheen of wholesomeness that it needs to do harm on a large scale. Judge a man by his deeds. His words mean nothing. His personal manner means nothing. His conscious beliefs are equally meaningless. They are lies that he tells himself so that he can be effective in lying to others. If someone works for an evil organization, then he himself is evil. People within organizations who try to go against the grain are quickly cycled out. And there are extremely few such people to begin with. People know their own, and hiring committees unlikely to hire someone who is going to upset the apple cart.
If you are convicted of a crime that you did not commit, everyone involved is guilty. The arresting officer, the prosecutor, the judge, and most of all your own lawyer. Your lawyer did nothing for you. He could have gotten you off if he wanted to. But he has an arrangement with the prosecutor, whereby the prosecutor lets your lawyer win some cases if he agrees to lose some cases. You probably noticed how unresponsive your lawyer was to the exculpatory evidence with which you provided him. That's because lawyers today are not really lawyers. They don't win cases, and they don't lose cases. Unless you are dealing with a super attorney, your so-called trial lawyer has never tried a single case in his life. His entire career, for lack of a better word, has consisted of him log-rolling with other fake lawyers who also got their degrees from fake law schools, like the University of Richmond Law School. If you are innocent, the prosecutor knows it and he does not care. Your lawyer knows that the prosecutor knows it and he does not care. If you beat the case, it isn't because you were innocent. Guilt and innocence are irrelevant once an arrest had been made. Nor is it because your lawyer did a good job, he did not. If it went to trial, the case was decided the moment the jury was selected. Your lawyer and the prosecutor agreed beforehand whether or not to stack the jury with people who would convict. They also agreed what would be admitted into evidence and who would be allowed to testify. If your alibi witness didn't show up, exculpatory evidence goes missing. It was your own lawyer who arranged for that to happen, albeit with the knowledge and consent of both the judge and the prosecutor. In the United States, most people who are arrested for political crimes, not actual crimes.
Examples of political crimes are possession with intent to distribute, you had 2 joints on you. Domestic battery, you were arrested even though your girlfriend didn't have a scratch on her. Corrupting the morals of a minor, you are 20 and you were in the presence of a 17-year-old who was having a beer. Statutory rape, you are 19 and your 17-year-old girlfriend decides she does not like you anymore. The scam begins when lawmakers decide that you can go to jail for 20 years for having a joint on you. The coup de grace is when your lawyer tells you that you could get a 20-year sentence, but, good news! I plea bargained it down to a 36-month suspended sentence and supervised parole. Lawyers create these absurd sentencing guidelines so that lawyers can make a show of getting their clients off the hook while actually selling them out. Also, draconian sentencing guidelines discourage people from representing themselves in court. This forces people to hire lawyers, which is what keeps the scam going. Those same lawyers introduce a buffer between the client and the actual machinery of the legal system. If the defendant represented himself, to see for himself what a farce it all was. But now that he has lawyer, he only knows what the lawyer tells him, so he does not know anything. The reason lawyers prefer to plead cases out, instead of going to trial, is that trials, though largely rigged, are not completely so. A trial might expose your lawyer's lack of integrity and therewith the system's lack of integrity. And because the system lacks integrity, so does everyone in it, including the arresting officer. He knew you were not guilty. He knew you'd be convicted. He knew the conviction would ruin your life.
And he didn't just do it to you. He arrests people every day for non-crimes. He knows the nothing goodwill of these arrests. He knows that the sole purpose of the arrest is to generate revenue for a corrupt, hyper-aggressive, grossly oversized so-called justice system. He knows that these arrests ruin the lives of productive members of society. He knows that they transfer funds to parasitic bureaucrats, for example, probation officers, anger management coaches, prison officials. But he does it anyway, every day.
The prosecutor puts non-criminals in jail for the very same reason. And your lawyer is 100% in on it. When you paid him, you were also paying the prosecutor, the judge, and the arresting officer. 90% of people in jail or on probation are non-criminals. The reason for this is strictly monetary. The criminal justice is very large and very expensive. Unless non-criminals are arrested, 90+% of the people who work for it would be out of a job. That means no more fraud money for 90% of defense lawyers, 90% of corrections officers, 95% of mental health care workers and psychiatrists, 99% of drug rehabilitation and anger management personnel, and 99.9% of women's rights groups.
Exactly. I would emphasize that women's rights organizations play a particularly vicious role in this hypocrisy. Such organizations are large and therefore expensive. When men are arrested for domestic violence, these groups make money, but 95% of their employees are redundant. So the number of men who are arrested for domestic violence has to be 20 times greater than the number of men who are actually guilty of it. Otherwise, these redundant employees don't get paid.
One either belongs to an organization or one does not. There are no rebels within an organization. Rebels do not work for organizations. And an organization is either legitimate or it is not. If it's fraudulent, so is everybody in it. And those people were always fraudulent. They were not Alan Alda liberals who changed. They were always exactly what they are now. They made a big show of being progressive when they were young because that is precisely what they are not and never were. When these do-gooders change in their mid-20s, they aren't changing at all. They are becoming their true selves. These erstwhile pseudo-do-gooders are doing exactly what they want to be doing. If they were not, they wouldn't have been hired. And if they had been hired, they would soon have been fired. If a law school graduate is genuinely disgusted by the legal system, he quits the law. Maybe he opens a restaurant. Maybe he becomes a journalist. Whatever he does, it isn't the law. And if he does not quit, that's because he's right where he belongs. He likes the hypocrisy. He needs it. It is how he discharges the hatred inside himself. If he seems like a really nice guy, that's because he has to be super nice, since if the mask dropped just a little, he would be seen for what he is. One can be excused for being the in-house lawyer for a university. But excuses are not justifications.
That's right. They are the exact opposite. Failure is excused. Success is justified. And all failure is willful failure. If circumstances truly were beyond one's control, one did not fail and one's conduct needn't be excused. She only became a lawyer to please her father. No, she became a lawyer because that is what she is. That's why her father didn't love her. She only became a lawyer because she could not pay the bills as a writer. No, she could not pay the bills as a writer because she is not a writer. She pretended to be a writer for a little while in order to hide her ugly actual lawyer self from herself and others. She did not know what else to do with her history degree. Law school just seemed like the right thing to do. No, it did not. Dating a stripper seems like the right thing to do. Going to law school does not. The people we most want to excuse are the ones who least deserve our excuses. The reason we so want to excuse is that they make themselves extremely likable in order to conceal who they are. They are bad people who seem good. That's why bad organizations hire them. Wicked people flock together. Where there is one wicked person, there are many. Therefore, guilt is collective guilt, and justice is collective justice.